So hey friends, we're getting into part 2 of my computer build. The last time we got a little bit stopped because I realized that I needed new fans based on my radiator placement, and then there's another video that made me have to change that radiator placement again. So this one we're going into peripherals and software more, but yeah, let's continue the build. Starting off with peripherals, there are some key additions we're plugging into the system, such as the Commander Pro for the case fan and RGB control. We're also adding a 1-to-4 USB 2.0 hub, as I mentioned in a previous video. Since my motherboard doesn't have enough USB 2.0 ports, I'll use this hub to handle my Commander Pro and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth cards. It'll also give me more USB 2.0 ports for any new peripherals I might add in the future. Since my case needs one more 20-pin socket than my motherboard provides, I've added this cheap splitter that can be found on Amazon. It is a PCIe card that barely fits under my GPU, so it is a little bit more snug than I'd like. However, it's serviceable, so I'll roll with it. Getting into the transplant process from my old computer, I'm looking to keep the power supply since it's decent. I upgraded to this HX1000 Platinum when my old power supply started growling at me. Based on the components of the new build, the 1000 watts should be ample to power everything so that I can swap it straight over with no problem. I'll also be porting over my 2 Samsung SSDs so that I can use them in my new system and hopefully hot swap my OS to another motherboard. With the key components out of the old system, I can get into going into the transplant process into my new system. The Lianli 011 Dynamic XL has drive bays integrated with cabling. So this means that I don't need the cables from my old drives. As you can see, the ports live inside the bays, so I'll have to screw on the drives onto the cartridges so that they'll slot into the SSD slots properly. For power cables, I'll be using the Cable Mod white cables to keep with the theme that I have going inside the case. When ordering, be extremely diligent about checking if your cable set is compatible with your PSU. You could be spending $100 on incompatible parts when you could just be checking the table that they've provided on their website. Since I swapped my radiator placement in my last video, I'm going to need to clean up the old thermal paste and reset everything with the new orientation. After everything was set and ready to run, I plugged it in, and everything seemed to be running fine. Unfortunately, I didn't have any response to my monitor, so I was starting to freak out, thinking that there was a bunch of things that I could have went wrong. I started working backwards trying to reseat the RAM, but that seemed to be fine. Then I did my GPU over again. Still no improvement on the monitor situation. I even reseated my CPU and AIO all over again. Still nothing. While thinking it was something severe I missed, it was actually something simple that could have been root caused by double checking the manual and checking my motherboard diagnostic lights. Doing this would have shown no lights on the diagnostic board, meaning that the motherboard did not have enough power. And by using the manual, I could have easily identified the port which was missing that was connecting to the PSU. That would have saved me a ton of time, but hey, at least I learned something from this and I won't do that again in the future, hopefully. Luckily, this is a simple fix and I was able to plug the cable into the motherboard from the PSU and got everything up and running. Give me what I want. What I really, really want. Come on. Oh! Shit! Yes! Got to the BIOS. Motherfucker! Power's important. So, I just got done with configuring the BIOS, and again, the biggest issue that I had was I wasn't seeing any bootable drives. So I finally successfully got in the BIOS, set everything up according to plan, but I couldn't find any bootable drives. And that obviously makes it I can't get into Windows. Well, thanks to this guy here, he had a little awesome thing, a little workaround. So I'm gonna replicate that once this boots. I just wanna make sure this all works properly. But it's promising. It's promising. So, success. All my drives. The 2 NVMEs, the 2 M.2 drives, as well as the 2 SATA drives that I have are now showing up. But now I'm having a CPU fan error. So let's try to fix that. Okay, so there's been 2 settings that I played around with. So to get past the, what was it? Boot. Yes. To get past those errors of not being able to find my drive, I got to the CSM and I went to enabled and I put these settings. Again, as that guy mentioned, that worked out and I can now see my boot drive. I can show that to you guys later. And then in order to get past the CPU fan error, because I'm guessing it can't detect a CPU fan because I'm using an AIO and I didn't put anything into that CPU fan header, I put it into the AIO header. It's not detecting that, so it's like, oh man, you're gonna explode. But I'm not, because I have an AIO. So I simply set that to ignore. So hopefully that fixes everything. Let us hit 10 and save. And see what happens. That's encouraging, not. Okay, run through your processes. Boom. Doop 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 doop. Hey, Windows. All right. So those 2 guys had awesome insights. So, got the idea for the CPU fan fix from this guy. He had a really weird intro. I'll let you guys look at that, but I'll link this video too, because I think that's helpful. Yo, it all works. It's got me on there. Now let me see if I can log it. Oh my god, seamless. Seamless. My old work stuff and everything. Does this work? Okay. Does my mouse work? Maybe. Maybe not. Okay, maybe my mouse isn't up there yet. But I'll get that there. But yeah, like I have my old benchmark picture and everything. So this is promising. This is awesome. Hopefully I can finish this up then tonight. That would be dope. I'm working on installing all the firmware updates for the stuff that I got. I'm just using this really cheap external hard drive or disk drive to get it done. It's like 10 bucks on Amazon, so not too bad, but I think it's a little bit easier than figuring out USB sticks and online connectivity before I have online connectivity. So that's what I'm using. So the problem here that we're getting is that I told you I had 4 drives, but only 2 are showing. So this is my computer. You can only see my C and H drives. However, if we scroll over and bring over the device manager, you can see that we actually have 4 drives. So the 2 SATA that you saw there and the 2 NVMe drives that are 1 terabyte each. Those aren't showing here, meaning I can't use them. Luckily, I remembered this from before. So it's something I do remember from my previous build. Partition. So if I go to control panel, just find that. It's gonna bring up the 2 disks that I want. The things that you'll see there is that there is MBR and GPT. And I believe MBR is what you want to use most of the time. I think GPT is for bigger things, over 3 terabytes or something like that. Which obviously I don't have that. And I don't want to spend money on that. So MBR it is. And they're both 1 terabyte, so they'll both be that way. So I'll say okay. Let's see what's happened. They're unallocated. So if I go into properties, this is working properly. So it's connected, everything. So if I say new simple volume and go to the setup, play with that, assign it a letter. Let's say P. And I'll call it P for programs. Finish. Cool. So there's nothing in there, so that should be there. So I'll do the same thing for this one. Do simple volume next. Again, same old same. I'll give it a P designation, no, M designation, and I'll call this one programs. Finish that one, boom, and then they're all allocated. So I have 2 new drives there. And so I have the central holder, programs. Wow, I should not call that programs. One should be called media. Rename, media. There we go. Yeah. So M media, P programs, H holder, and C central. So the way that this is gonna be running so far is I am going to be using central for the boot drive, and I'm probably gonna clean that up once I get all those programs off. I'll be moving all the programs to the P drive where all my games and other things will reside. And then the H is for something I'll talk about in a bit, but then the media will obviously be like all the videos that all the video files and music and things I use for my editing software and my projects. So that will all go in there. And then I have H. So again, the central and the holder are SATA drives, while the media and the programs are NVMe. So the media is going to store all the big files. Programs is going to be where I store all my programs. But the holder, what I'm going to use it for is really to store all of my projects for Adobe. And the reason why I want to do that is I was trying to optimize the drive a little bit by separating out where, because right now I'm usually just putting them all in the same thing. So the operating system in which I'm doing it, the media files that it goes into, and the actual project all are residing on the same drive. So to sort of relieve the stress and get a little bit more efficiencies in terms of read-write as well as interaction between the 3. I did some reading and I noticed that if you separate those, you get better performance. So my operating system will continue to be on central, especially because I don't want to buy another OS and remap that. So this one came over pretty quickly. And then from the holder perspective, that's where I'll put all my projects. Since it's only 250 gigabytes, I can't put a ton of stuff on there. So I can temporarily hold a few projects in there, as well as some other items that I might need on the short term. But that will essentially be like my temporary files where I can just delete things often. While my media will store all of my things that I want to persist for a little bit, just in case I want to re-leverage footage, revisit them, hold them for longer. And again, my programs, so like all of my editing software, all my games will go there. So by splitting those off, I should be able to get a little bit more efficiencies. So both lifetime render as well as my speeds for writing should be improved dramatically from there, and I can get things done at a more efficient rate. So hopefully that works out, but that's the reason why I wanted to go down this whole multi-drive and retain all my drives for this purpose. So unfortunately we had to stop there. And the reasoning for that is because if you noticed in the video, when everything was up and running, all the fans are running, but the RGB was not on the case fans. And that's because I dedicated that to the AIO for now. The hubs that came with my LL120s were not functioning, so they're either shorted or something's wrong with the wiring, but I did ask for a replacement. It is on the way. But because Corsair has had an extreme amount of orders in recent time, there is a little bit of a back order. Not a back order, but it's a logistical delay due to the orders. So I don't have a shipping confirmation of when that's going to get through, but I'm really hoping it's within the next week so I can get you guys another video. So the third part of this series will be regarding RGB setup, talking about the NZT X Cam software as well as the IQ software from Corsair, to talk about every RGB piece, as well as cable management from an overall perspective, both in and outside the case, just to talk about how I'm handling those things, some of the solutions I'm going through. So again, I appreciate you guys being patient and following me along through this process. I know it's not been the most perfect process, but I think showing you my struggles along the way, looking at resources that I've been looking at, and showing you some videos that I've been using to troubleshoot may help you in any of your future PC builds. So again, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect or professional at this, but I'm learning along the way, and hopefully you guys get some stuff out of this video. I do appreciate that you guys have been sticking around. I've been noticing the subscribers bump up even with my shorter, less formal videos, so I appreciate that. But if you want to follow along this journey and continue along everything I'm learning, and you're liking the content you're seeing this far, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and doing all the things that you normally do on a video that you like and love. And I'll see you extremely shortly. As always, appreciate ya. Peace.